The good thing I'm smiling. Welcome to Zen with a Smile. I'm redoing the introduction. I just listened to it tonight and I really have to apologize. I tried to edit it. I had music going in the background and I didn't know that it would show up. I didn't have a microphone, so I didn't know how poor the audio would be. When I tried to edit the music out, it took bits and pieces out of the video, so it's really a mess. And I apologize to the 78 people who viewed that. So let's try again. And if you see the name of this video, I use REDUX, redo, in the true sense of the word, to restore, to attempt to do it again. So let's see, let's go back to the introduction. And I'll give a little more background than I did the first time. I even took notes, and I'll glance down from time to time to look at my notes, so that I can basically cover the same material that I covered on the introduction video. So again, introduction to Zen with a Smile, redo. And I even went and found the same shirt I was wearing, in the same glasses, in the spirit of recreating as similar as I can. At first I wanted to keep it so I could document if I was making progress, so I could document, and it was sort of historical to me. But when I listened to today, and I apologize to everybody that tried to be with me. Don't let it discourage you. Please go on to some of my other videos if you're so inclined. So, to start again, those in Taiwan, many people in Taiwan know me by my adopted Chinese name, Hai Yang, which means my yang is a little different. The yang is different than Hai Yang is usually a word for the ocean, but my yang means gentle breeze over the sea. And I'm going to do a whole episode about names and why we choose names other than our given names. But my given name was Dennis Hayes, Hayes, born in California, raised in Hawaii, been in Taiwan since 1997, long time. And it's my home, obviously, and I love it here. Okay, so just to give a little bit of background, remember, I was a strange little guy, I have to say, but born into a really strange family, so I kind of fit right in, I guess. But I remember asking my mom, when I was 4 or 5, telling my mom that we went to the fair, the 4-H fair in Thousand Oaks, California. All saw the animals, and people raised the 4-H club, they raised their animals to show them and then auction them off for slaughter. And I imagine it must be really tough for the kids to raise an animal and then know that it will be eaten. But these guys are farmers, so they kind of accepted the reality of this is life. You take life to sustain life, as far as they knew, as far as they could tell, as far as they were used to, as far as what went on around them with their family and friends. Anyway, I told my mom, said, you know, Mom, the cow said, don't eat me. I said, don't eat me. And with those big brown eyes, I looked at her, I said, okay, I won't eat you. And so I told my mom, I said, Mom, you know that the cow said, the cow told me don't eat me. She laughed at me, yeah. Sure, cows don't talk. But I knew better, right? Somehow in my little wisdom, I knew better. And as I was growing up, it was always a fight. You need meat to grow strong, you know, because she bought into the whole 9 yards, all the advertisement. And I was a strapping young man, swimmer. I was strong, but she wanted me to be, she just did it. So she noticed that, but that, you know, for years of kind of discussing it, talking about it, I found other alternatives because I'm kind of a passive resistance guy. Rather than beat a dead horse, as I say, harp on and on, I would simply slip it to the dog. And Mom was on to that. She said, the dog is abnormally close to you. And she's getting fatter and fatter. Yeah, she ate a lot. She got up most of my meat. And then probably 1 or 2 years later, Mom finally said, okay, don't eat meat. And then being the little stubborn guy that I was, as soon as she said, I don't have to eat meat, I wanted to eat meat. Just for spite. Because that's who and what I was. But anyway, I felt this, and I remember once telling her, Mom, I want to be a Buddha. And I must have been 8 or 9 by then. And she said, what do you mean Buddha? And I pointed to Guan Yin that somebody had given my mom years before. Guan Yin, the goddess of mercy. And my mom fell in love with her and became a devotee on the spot. She became a Buddhist without knowing what a Buddhist is. All she knows is that she loved this statue of Guan Yin, and she loved what it meant to her. So, was it strange that a little boy said he wants to be a Buddha? I didn't say I want to be a god. I just said, do I want to be a Buddha? And all I knew about Buddhists was not much. But I knew I wanted to be one. Isn't that strange? Yeah, funny little guy. And so serious about it. But basically, that desire and that want, whatever you want to call it, never really left me. It's always been with me. By the time I was 10 or 12, I was already sitting for meditation. I found some books to read at the library and just knew, I don't know what the attraction was to meditation, but I just knew that it was for me. And I practiced on my own and kept it quiet, kept it within, didn't talk about it much because I wasn't in an environment. There wasn't many other people meditating around me. By the time I got to my teens, I guess just finishing high school, starting university, I met some like-minded people that were Western-style meditation. They were meditators, but they were also doing all kinds of fun things, you know. We would go out in the night and communicate to the spaceships. Send them Vasu, which was love. Send love to the spaceships. And I loved it, sit down in the middle of the field. But we practiced meditation with candles and incense and a gong, in addition to our supernatural activities. And I just thought it was a blast. But the group of my friends, there was only 3 or 4 of us that attracted to my spiritual aspirations, and we started having a more formal kind of meditation, chanting Om, I can still remember, chanting in a little gong and candlelight. I remember once my younger brother and one of his friends came in. I was like, God, see what's in that room, man. They're out of their minds. It's crazy. And they're laughing at us. And get out of here. We're chasing away. You're interrupting our meditation. You know, you can ask him about it someday. I'll have him come on the program and share those stories with you. But anyway, it's been there for a long time. Paramahamsa Yogananda was off my mom's bookshelf. I got this beautiful book called Autobiography of a Yoga by Paramahamsa Yogananda. I love it. Paramahamsa Yogananda. The first yogi that I know of that came to the U.S. and actually lived and practiced. And he started something called the Self-Realization Fellowship, SRF. Got a big place in Malibu still. He died. He passed on. He left this dimension when I was 2 or 3. But he was my first teacher. And fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not sure which, He wasn't in a body. He'd already passed on. But the energy I felt from him was very, very strong. And stuck with me. But I found, I spent a lot of time in university. I studied Hinduism, the Vedas and the Upanishads, from a purely academic standpoint. Had a chance to listen to Krishnamurti in Ojai, California. Beautiful man, enlightened man, give talks about the historical and the scholarly aspects, and also the spiritual underpinnings. But I did find Hinduism to be a little bit cumbersome with the caste system and so many demons and gods, and it was just a little much for me, just too much. Okay? And I kind of gravitated towards Zen really early, because in contrast to Hinduism, Zen was really simple. Well, it was simplicity. I don't know if it was simple, maybe it was more difficult, but it didn't have all the clutter, it didn't have all the noise, it didn't have, but I have to say, Bhagavad Gita is one of the most beautiful books. Arjuna asking advice before he goes to fight a war. Beautiful, beautiful book. Powerful influence on me. So, and Sanskrit. Sanskrit has stayed with me. I love I think it's the true spiritual language, that it captures the essence and the soul and the vibration of words. Words basically have very little meaning, but it's the sound, it's the resonance, it's the sound. And so I like Sanskrit words, always have. So, I cherry pick what I liked out of the different traditions. And everything about Zen I liked, except my misunderstanding of what quiet the mind means, and my attempt for the better part of 30 years to quiet this noisy mind with no or very little success. The noise is always there. So somewhere along the line I said, okay, I don't think I really get what this means. You know, that clarity was not a concept. I was a little bit muddy, you know. Clarity wasn't a concept that was just bursting out of my being, bursting out of my soul. Too much going on in the head. But I knew from a very, I sensed that maybe they meant ignore or don't take it seriously. Let the noise be there, but don't let it control. Don't influence your emotions. Don't let the ego keep its identity. It will do everything, the sneaky ego will do everything it can. So I learned to listen, I learned to think of what's going on here as being in a movie, or being at a movie and watching a movie, and for entertainment purposes only. Then I learned a few tricks. One of the biggest trick I learned is to give it jobs and say, okay, solve this, do that. What about this, you know? Go solve some. And the mind would scamper off, I guess. It felt like it scampered off. I'm sure it was still right here. And look for things to do, and look for solutions, and come back to me like a little dog. I'm so proud of myself. Look. And sometimes it came up with some good stuff. You know, because one of the puzzles for me was, okay, if you have to quiet your mind and transcend your mind, why are we given such a beautiful instrument? Outrageous instrument of unlimited potential. Why are we all just numbskull? What am I putting in our head? This didn't make sense to me, that we're given this tool and then we're supposed to ignore it or overcome it, or I don't think so. I don't think so. So my Zen practice led me pretty solid, pretty solid. But again, without boundaries, without a sect or a schism or a school or a discipline, just kind of a undisciplined Zen, just wide open Zen. I like the simplicity of it. I studied a lot about it. I read a lot of the masters and watched a lot of things. I remember watching Leonard Cohen, a songwriter that I really liked, and his time spent on Mount Baldy in California and the old Roshi there. Just thinking, yeah, it's that stern Japanese, samurai kind of tradition. So this led me to this. Continuing my meditation practice, that's been the one constant is meditation. And meditation without boundaries, I've never been really much so interested in trying to keep my back straight. That's the basics, Try to keep my back straight. I try to breathe correctly without much effort because it should be automatic. But forms and again, all that organized stuff wasn't for me. It just seemed like a meditation was a tool to get to, the only tool I had in my arsenal, in fact, the only tool available to me. And it's much more than that because it's like the sun. Today I still meditate many hours and it's still part and parcel of me. And this meditation means so much. So if I was to stress anything to anybody that may be watching this, get your meditation practice in order. The length of time and all that formal stuff and all the rules. And maybe you like rules. I don't like rules too much. So I haven't limited myself with rules, but you can have rules if you want. Rituals. I do have a room where I'm sitting in today that I like to meditate. I do have my favorite incense. I do have all those things. I sit in a chair. I can sit on the floor anymore. It's just way too far down there, as I probably mentioned in a future video. Even though this is funny because this is redoing the past, but we're already somewhere in the future, a month or 6 weeks ahead of when I did this originally. So, but I'm still trying to redo, recreate, restructure, put the same same information, maybe redone a little bit. So. I started getting them. Sorry, I'm glancing down at some notes to see. I won't stay on script. I'm trying to recreate, but this is something new, and that's just who I am. I'm not very good at going backwards. I don't want to go back. I don't want to revisit. And that means places and things and experiences, and I don't spend any time rehashing the old. And I don't spend any time at all planning for new mischief in the future. I don't. I just take what comes and do the best I can with whatever it is. The situation that I'm in at that time. Anyway, after Paramahamsa experience, and really still has that place in my heart as my first teacher, I went to California after university, right after I graduated the first degree, and went to California and visited friends, and they took me to Siddha Foundation in Santa Monica, California, where Baba Muktananda was the teacher from India. And this is the early 80s. So at this time in California, gurus and the Beatles had been to India, and Maharishi was big. So there was an atmosphere that I had experienced before. So I went to, my friends are all into Muktananda, Baba, let's go see Baba. Well, Baba happened to die before I could go see him. The first lesson I attended with him was, with his group, was, he'd been dead, he'd passed for a week, and so they were going through all the ceremonies. And it was huge, there'd be 3,000 people in one room meditating, and I really like the power of groups. I'd never been in a group bigger than 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 at the most, but for thousands. And Siddha Foundation did something that was really interesting. Male and female sat separately, and they chanted at different times. So there was kind of a dialogue. It really was beautiful, kind of a dialogue between the men and the women, because their spirituality, everything above men and women is a different approach. Different. So the softness of the female and the hardness of the male, yin and yang, it is something really beautiful. But at that time I'd already been cautious. I was already cautious. Don't dive in blindly. Don't surrender to just anything or anyone. And he wasn't around anyway. But it was a beautiful experience, and I still have friends that love him dearly and still cherish his legacy. But that was my second experience. I can't really call it an experience because never, in my heart of hearts, I never really accepted Baba as my teacher. I respected him and liked what I saw. But pretty much I was still on my own. In my own practice, in my own little world. In my own little world. But then I had opportunity. Let's see, it must have been early 20s, so early 30s. I went to Japan, and during my 20s I was pretty much involved pretty much settled on a Zen approach to who I was and what I was. It resonated the closest. And I went to Japan, in Kyoto, and went to a Rinzai temple, and really liked it. Rinzai Zen, Zazen as they called it, and you sit. They say, did you sit today? They use sit instead of meditation. So I like that a lot. Did you sit today? Yes, I did. So when I went into this temple, Rinzai Zen, and at that time I didn't know the difference between Soto Zen and Rinzai Zen, the two big schools, and the differences. And I'm still not really sure. I'll share with you in a minute. But fell in love with the austerity, fell in love with the tradition. It really brought out the Japanese in me, which I don't have any Japanese blood as far as I know. In fact, I'm sure because we did the DNA testing. But there's an affinity to Japan that I've always had. So I got in the temple and I said, I'm staying. And I signed up to become a monk. Take a 3-year training program, 2 to 3 years. And was in the full rigor, full environment where I didn't have to worry about food. We get up at 2:30 or 3 in the morning and walking meditation. We did all kinds of other meditation, walking meditation, and sitting for hours where we weren't allowed to move. It was very strict. The Roshi would walk around, and he didn't actually physically carry a stick like they used to in the old days, but he would definitely scold you if you move. So you're under constant surveillance. But also you're cloistered and you're wearing a little uniform, and if you did go outside, everybody would, yeah. But after a couple of years, what happened? I got really bored. Because my language skills has never been a blessing. I tried to make my mother tongue, English, I've worked really hard to make it as effective and as useful a tool as I have. I've increased my vocabulary, increased my comfort with my mother tongue, but learning another language was not my forte. So basically I was in Japan with no Japanese, just the basic things that I needed to. And now it escapes me. I didn't remember. But those basically I was in Japan, but luckily I was in an environment where you didn't have to talk much. But I never knew what was going on. But what's new, because I didn't really care. I accepted the teachings that came through. The language didn't matter. The teachings that came into my heart were the teachings that I cared about. And what was coming in through my ears wasn't a big concern. Well, needless to say, I only made it through 2 years. And I left without being ordained. As far as I knew, I was leaving without being ordained. But the Roshi said, after I was sure that I was leaving, the Roshi told me, look, you've done really well. Would you accept being ordained? And I said, well, what does it mean? And he said, it's just that you take a vow to be the best man that you can. Make it simple. And, this was in English, Roshi had a little English. He said, make a vow to be the best man you can. I can live with that. So I got ordained a year early. But I still was set on leaving. And I went back home to Hawaii. And a dear friend, shared with me about a dojo, a Renzai Zen dojo in Kalihi Valley. Those of you know Oahu, Honolulu, Kalihi Valley, beautiful valley. Way up in the back was a Renzai Zen temple. So I went up there and I started going there to practice. And here we practiced martial arts too. The Roshi would choose for you, the Roshi would choose. And we couldn't live there, there was no place to live. We came up once or twice a week and meditated and went in the dojo and did whatever martial arts that Roshi would instruct us to. We wore no uniform, but we did wear a gi, a plain white gi with absolutely white belt, with absolutely no marking because they didn't believe in rank. I'm a black belt and a super duper duper duper. Black belt, 3rd degree, 7th degree, 8th degree, yeah, who cares? Nobody cared. So the martial arts that were going on up there basically was kendo, judo, and kyushu, archery. Oh, so I thought, man, how cool. My first choice would have been kendo. I think, how cool to hit something with a stick. That sounded like fun. And my second choice would have been kyushu because it's about focus and pinpoint. And, basically I'm like this. But the funny thing about kyushu, with the big bow that they used for that, it wasn't very accurate anyway. So it wasn't really about focusing as I came to learn. But Roshi just looked at me from day one and said, you walk. And I said, what? Walk. And in the dojo there's a line that I'd never noticed before, a white line, the length of the dojo. It's, you walk back and forth on that line. Nobody else was walking on the line. I really fell out of favor with the Roshi, right? And he was adamant though, you walk on that line. And he started to give me a little instruction about a Zen walk, one foot slowly and carefully and mindfully in front of the other, while you're maintaining a balance. Okay? So, essentially, I did that for the next 2 or 3 years. I walked. Every time I'd come to class, Roshi would just point. And I did okay. I'm not close to mastering it at all, but I did okay. But when Roshi would come and watch, I would screw up. I couldn't even, I'd fall down. And, something about being observed and doing some physical activity. A little dyslexia, I don't know. A little bit disconnect. Looking in the mirror and shaving, and I always had a little bit, some spatial relationship challenges. So, finally, I learned not to ask too many questions of Roshi, or none. And I just did what he said. And one day he came up to me and says, do you understand about the walk? I said, no, I have no clue. I'm dedicating myself, I'm doing it as well as I can. But I don't know why I'm doing this. And he said, he explained to me that the walking is the basis of all the martial arts. The balance, the foundation, using your... And he also explained to me the most fascinating part. He said, when you walking correctly, you enter in the rhythm of life. The rhythm of life. Listen, I love those words. And you become one with the energy, with the world, as it really truly is. And he said, when you have mastered this discipline, you can walk through a crowd, and the crowd will part in front of you, and no one will even notice you're there. But just move. You don't have to just go straight. Walk mindfully, and the universe will accommodate you. And I thought, you mean we become invisible? Yeah, that's one way to look at it. And I laughed because I always wanted to be invisible. That's like my dream. So I had a renewed vigor, I had a renewed discipline in my walking. But the practice, we had the meditation first, and then we'd go to the dojo and practice. And in the practice, we would sit in a circle facing each other in our gi. And I found out Soto Zen faces the wall. Yeah. That's a big difference, and I guess it makes a difference. I don't know, I've never tried it in a group with our backs to each other. I've never experienced a Soto Zen meditation. But also in the Renzai tradition was a koan. You know the classic one, what's the sound of one hand clapping? I'm paraphrasing it poorly. It's more beautiful than that. But in a very elaborate ceremony with Roshi. And again, Roshi didn't live at the temple. He was encouraged in this tradition. We were encouraged to have jobs and families and outside lives. Our mission was to be a monk without a robe. A monk without the visible reassurance that people look, oh, he's a monk. Without the hardware. Pretty tough. A pretty tough assignment. But meanwhile, encouraged, he had a life, he had a family, he had a job. And he's the kind of guy, nice guy, he's the kind of guy you want to have a beer with. Just a nice guy. But boy, I'll tell you, when I was going to get my koan, he assigns a koan for you. He's going to give us our puzzle. And he wears a special regalia. He's full on Roshi Doshi, Bidupi, 200-year-old get-up with all that. I mean, and he's sitting in this little room, the small room, like a closet almost. He's sitting in there, and he's adopted the mannerism that's the tradition of hundreds of years of tradition and ceremony, because they take this seriously. So he gave me my koan. And I pondered on it and thought about it, and made several trips back in the room. First, after a month, and then 2 months, and then the periods of time got longer and longer because I was less sure. Every time he says, no, I'll hit you with the stick. I got it this time, Roshi. No, I'll hit you with the stick. Didn't get it. Still have that koan. Still working on it. It's a work in progress. But I have gotten far enough to know that it's not about thinking. It's not about solving. You're not going to solve it. Maybe that's the puzzle. Is to let go of the mind, because the mind will not figure out this. The answer is not in words. The answer is in here. And I'm at peace. I'm at peace with what's in here. So maybe it's a tool. Probably it's a tool. Okay? Probably it's a tool. But we combine the samurai tradition. This Rinzai Zen was very much the samurai, the religion of the samurais. And the samurai tradition was to combine, of course, the martial arts first and foremost, martial arts, but he also had to be a refined, gentle man. I love that, gentle man. We included the cha dao, the tea ceremony. And Chinese, from what I understand, started it. But the Japanese gave it all its details as they want to do. You know, they took things from Chinese culture but made it theirs. Which is the beautiful thing about Japanese. They take outside culture, they accept outside culture, but they make it, they reinvent it, they make it theirs. So included cha dao and flower arranging. Ishibana, I think. Who knows? I forgot it for the moment. Sorry. Ishibana. That doesn't sound right. But anyway, have someone help me. The flower arranging. Because the aesthetics, the sense of beauty. You know, the sensibility, the Zen garden with a few rocks and some gravel and circles drilled with a rake. Or a Zen architecture, a Zen influence. Just orderly, simple, and possessing an incredible beauty. So we had the full three things. So I did a little bit of cha dao, and then managed to study a little more here, but I really want to get into it and be graceful and be really old man tea. Now that I'm old man, it's probably about time. So I'm looking for someone I'm looking for a teacher. Here we go again. Okay. So leave that. Just stop going. Because for them, meditation was like fighting, like martial arts, like working out. Meditation, you must sweat. If you didn't sweat, you're not working hard enough. And again, this just didn't sit well with me. After a while, I said, can I be in la la land, la 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 sometime? What's wrong with la la land? Why can't I be relaxed and just kind of comfortable? Well, you have to be vigilant. You may be attacked from any position. Anyway, I'm not a warrior, okay? Just not meant to be a warrior. No. But I appreciate the discipline was really good for me because I'm pretty undisciplined otherwise. If I can make something into a habit, meditation for instance, if I make it to a habit, then I'm okay. I'll keep it in my habit. But if it's a discipline, if I think, well, I gotta do that, jump, sit, blah, blah, blah. You know, I've never been outer directed. And never found that motivation, never needed that kind of, anyway, not for me. Not for me. That brings us up to, skip over some things, but the one constant was meditation. I came to Taiwan, and I've been here, 6 or 8 years. When in another video I'll share what it took to get me to go. My friend said, "Hey, we found a teacher. We found your teacher. We found your teacher for you." And I always said, "No, you found your teacher for you." But anyway, I got introduced to Sifu here in Taipei, Taiwan. Beautiful man. And he was alive, and I was able to accept him as my teacher. And he accepted me as his student. And he taught me so much, and I loved this guy. I just loved this guy so much. But I believe that a teacher can only point the way. And at a certain point, you got to do it on your own. There's no getting around that. You need the teacher to turn the dials, point the way, find the frequencies for you. And I found a man, I watched him very closely and loved everything about him. And his teachings were simple and it really resonated with me. Very, very simple and resonated with me, and it fit into everything that I had come to know to this point. So, that's my introduction. I don't think I smiled. Did I smile at all during this video? It's already 40 minutes. It's way too long. But welcome to watch my other videos. And I try to stay away from. That's enough about me. Let's see you later. Okay?